Welcome back to Boss Economics World, where we rip the band-aid off bad policy, expose government incompetence, and serve up economic truth hotter than a melting ice cap in a trade war. I'm your host, the guy who sees through the smoke and mirrors of Washington's economic circus, and today, oh boy, do we have a doozy of a story to unpack. Grab your wallets, folks, because Uncle Sam's latest tariff tantrum is about to cost you more than just your 401k. Let's dive in. Folks, if you've been paying attention to the stock market lately, you've probably noticed it's been hemorrhaging cash faster than a gambler at a Vegas slot machine. Trillions, yes, trillions, of dollars in value have evaporated from U.S. equities, and who's the ringmaster of this economic clown show? None other than President Donald Trump, who, fresh off a weekend of golf in Florida, decided to double down on his tariff barrage like a kid playing Risk with real lives and real money. And guess what? He's not backing down. In fact, he's out here bragging about it, saying, sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something. Medicine? Mr. President, this isn't medicine, this is economic cyanide, and the patient is flatlining. On today's episode of Boss Economics World, we're going to break down the economic insanity behind Trump's tariff obsession, expose the government's reckless mismanagement, and show you how this policy is a one-way ticket to Recessionville, population, all of us. From Wall Street to Main Street, no one is safe from this economic dumpster fire. So, buckle up, because we're about to go from the surface-level chaos to the deep, dark economic truths that Washington doesn't want you to see. Let's start with the obvious, Trump's tariff spree is tanking markets. Since his initial across-the-board 10% tariff took effect on April 12, 2025, followed by a whopping 34% tariff on China, global markets have been in freefall. The Dow Jones Industrial Average has plummeted by over 15% in just 2 weeks, wiping out $4.2 trillion in market value, according to Bloomberg data. The S&P 500? Down 18%. Nasdaq? Forget about it, tech stocks are getting crushed, with giants like Apple and Tesla shedding billions as their supply chains choke on the tariff-induced chaos. And it's not just Wall Street feeling the heat. The average American is about to get hit where it hurts most, their wallets. Trump's claim that inflation's not going to be a big deal is the kind of denialism that would make even the most optimistic economist choke on their coffee. Just look at the numbers. The Peterson Institute for International Economics estimates that Trump's tariffs will raise consumer prices by up to 5.1% annually, costing the average U.S. household an extra $3,900 per year. Back-to-school shopping. Say goodbye to affordable pencils, backpacks, and laptops, most of which are imported from China. But hey, at least Trump's got a plan, right? His grand strategy is to eliminate the U.S. trade deficit, which he calls a loss. Spoiler alert, folks, this isn't a plan. It's a fantasy. The U.S. trade deficit in goods with China alone was $382 billion in 2024, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. Globally, the U.S. ran a goods trade deficit of $1.2 trillion. Trump thinks he can wave a tariff wand and make that disappear? Good luck, buddy. The U.S. economy is built on consumer spending, 70% of GDP, to be exact, and cheap imports are the lifeblood of that engine. Slapping tariffs on everything doesn't eliminate deficits, it just makes everything more expensive, slows growth, and pisses off your trading partners. Now, let's peel back the layers and look at the real economic carnage Trump's policies are unleashing. The markets aren't just reacting to tariffs, they're signaling something much scarier, a looming recession. And guess what? The data backs it up. First, let's talk manufacturing. The Institute for Supply Management's manufacturing PMI, a key indicator of industrial health, dropped to 46.1 in April 2025, signaling contraction for the fifth consecutive month. Anything below 50 means the sector is shrinking, folks, and tariffs are pouring fuel on the fire. U.S. manufacturers, already struggling with supply chain disruptions, are now facing higher input costs and retaliatory tariffs from trading partners. Just look at the auto industry. General Motors announced last week it's slashing 10,000 jobs in 2025, citing unprecedented cost pressures from tariffs on steel, aluminum, and Chinese parts. Second, consumer confidence is tanking. The University of Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Index fell to 87.3 in April 2025, its lowest level since the pandemic. Why? Because people aren't stupid. They see prices rising, their stock portfolios shrinking, and their jobs at risk. When consumers get scared, they stop spending. And when consumer spending dries up, you've got a one-way ticket to a recession. Third, let's not forget the global ripple effects. Trump's not just picking a fight with China, he's taking a sledgehammer to the entire global economy. Europe, already teetering on the edge of stagnation, is now facing Trump's threat of reparations and new tariffs. The Eurozone's GDP growth forecast for 2025 was just downgraded by the IMF to a measly 0.8%, thanks in part to U.S. trade policies. And China? Their economy is slowing too, with GDP growth projected to fall to 4.1% in 2025, the lowest in decades, according to the World Bank. When the world's top 3 economies are stumbling, you don't get a soft landing, you get a global recession. Now, let's get to the heart of the problem. This isn't just Trump being Trump. This is a government-wide failure to understand basic economics. Tariffs aren't a magic bullet, they're a boomerang, and they're coming back to hit us hard. But instead of course-correcting, the administration is doubling down on bad policy, fueled by a toxic mix of nationalism and ignorance. Trump's obsession with trade deficits is economics 101 gone wrong. A trade deficit isn't inherently bad, it's a reflection of a strong economy with high consumer demand. The US has run trade deficits for decades while enjoying some of its strongest periods of growth. Just look at the 1990s, when the US ran consistent deficits but saw GDP growth average 3.5% annually, according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis. The real issue isn't the deficit, it's productivity, innovation, and competitiveness. But instead of investing in those, Trump's solution is to slap tariffs on everything, alienate allies, and hope for the best. And let's not forget the hypocrisy. Trump claims he's protecting American jobs, but his tariffs are killing them. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York estimates that Trump's 2018-2019 tariffs cost the U.S. economy 142,000 jobs. The 2025 tariffs are projected to be even worse, with Moody's Analytics forecasting a loss of up to 400,000 jobs by the end of the year. Meanwhile, the Congressional Budget Office warns that GDP growth could slow to just 1.1% in 2025, down from 2.3% in 2024. But hey, at least Trump's got Europe coming to the table, right? Wrong. The EU isn't begging for mercy, they're gearing up for a fight. Just last week, the European Commission announced retaliatory tariffs on $20 billion of U.S. exports, targeting everything from bourbon to Harley-Davidson motorcycles. This isn't negotiation, it's escalation. And the losers? American workers, farmers, and consumers. Folks, let's cut through the noise. Trump's tariff tantrum is a policy disaster of epic proportions, and the government's mismanagement is dragging us into a recession we can't afford. The data is clear, the markets are screaming, and the pain is only just beginning. But instead of admitting they're wrong, the administration is out here gaslighting us, claiming China's taking a big hit and inflation's not a big deal. Tell that to the single mom who can't afford school supplies, the auto worker who just got laid off, or the retiree watching their nest egg disappear. This isn't leadership, it's economic vandalism. And the worst part? It was all avoidable. Instead of tariffs, the government could have invested in infrastructure, education, and innovation, things that actually make an economy stronger. Just look at Germany, which runs a trade surplus not because of tariffs but because of a skilled workforce and cutting-edge manufacturing. Or look at South Korea, which has become a global tech powerhouse through smart trade policies and R&D investment. But no, here in the US, we're stuck with a government that thinks the economy is a reality TV show, where drama and bravado trump data and results. And the cost? Trillions in lost wealth, hundreds of thousands of lost jobs, and a recession that could take years to recover from. So, what can we do, folks? First, stay informed. Don't fall for the spin coming out of Washington. Second, hold your elected officials accountable. Demand policies that promote growth, not destruction. And third, protect yourself. If you're an investor, diversify your portfolio, look at gold, bonds, or international markets to hedge against the chaos. If you're a worker, upskill now, because the job market is about to get ugly. Here at Boss Economics World, we'll keep calling out the nonsense, exposing the incompetence, and fighting for an economy that works for all of us, not just the golf buddies in Washington. Until next time, keep your wallets tight and your skepticism sharp. This is your host, signing off, because somebody's got to tell the truth around here.